So I want to pass it over to Derek just for a moment or two. Derek?
Thanks, Amelia. Nice to see everybody. Thank you for being with us. It's an honor to be here for this conversation. My name is Derek Goldman. I use he, him pronouns. I'm wearing a maroon shirt and glasses in a room that is similar color to my shirt. I'm just noticing a kind of burgundy color. As Amelia said, I'm with the Laboratory for Global Performance and Politics, which is based in Washington, D.C. at Georgetown University, with a mission to harness the power of performance to humanize global politics. One of the ways that we try to do that is really through relationship building and creating space for critical conversations about challenging issues. We have had a long-term, really powerful and important partnership with TCG on the Global Theater Initiative. We serve as the US Center of the International Theater Institute together and collaborate on that and on many other initiatives and programs. I want to be really brief, but just highlight that, this session emerges directly out of a session last week, a global session in which the events of the moment were the central subject, and Layla Buck, who I'll introduce in a moment, very, very powerfully just kind of asked the group kind of what can we do? What do we do? And a series of others, David Diamond and others, chimed in. And I would say from our perspective at the lab that those conversations, as I look at this Zoom room, there are so many long-held friendships and relationships and commitments represented here. We in Washington, I look at Nabeel, and we've hosted Nabeel and the Freedom Theater over many years, going back to 2013 in the production of The Island. We have had Faisal from the Freedom Theater in our Mellon Lab Fellows program. More recently, we hosted Iman and the Ashtar Theater and their amazing production of Oranges and Stones. I name this only to say that so many of these commitments and relationships are so deep and go back so far. And I think we've been sitting and experiencing and witnessing the events of the moment and really just wondering, what can we do? What can we do that's additive and meaningful? And it was in that spirit that we're wanting to hold space for this conversation today, and especially to hear from our friends about what they're experiencing and what we may be able to do as a community from here. So with that in mind, I'm gonna hand it over to my amazing colleague, Layla Buck. I think most of you know her, but she's an extraordinary playwright, performer, facilitator, and educator. And I think just have to say personally, I know so many of us are just so grateful for her kind of leadership and deep emotional honesty and commitment on so many issues during these times. So over to you, Layla, with gratitude.
Thank you so much, Derek, for that. So generous, and thank you so much for this space. Thank you to Amelia and Derek and Julie and your colleagues at TCG and the Global Theater Initiative. Sorry about that. It's on so we can communicate. For responding so rapidly to our request for this space. And Amelia and Derek and Julie for all your support to make it possible. I'm Layla Buck. My pronouns are she, her. I'm joining from the land of the Munsee Lenape people, colonially known as Brooklyn, New York. I'm an olive-skinned Lebanese American woman with long brown hair that is also in rapid response mode. I am wearing a blue shirt and a hand of Fatima. You might see some silver earrings, and there is a off-white wall, a little bit of a purple curtain behind me. I'm a member of the Volunteer Steering Committee for the Middle Eastern North African Theater Makers Alliance, which launched last year at this time at this conference. Our mission is to amplify the voices of Middle Eastern and North African theater makers and expand how stories from and about our communities are told on stages in the US, to take space, to make opportunities, to champion artists and build relationships with other marginalized communities and allies to create a more vibrant US theater. On Monday, members of our community, some of whom are here, shared with me how helpless and hopeless they felt in this time and asked how we as an alliance could advocate for artists who have been demonized and threatened for writing or speaking about the Israeli occupation and its impact on Palestinians. I quickly emailed our volunteer steering committee and we began drafting a statement in response to the violence of the last 2 weeks and beyond them, which we will release next week. But then we realized that there was a more immediate opportunity to make space at this convening for Palestinian artists whose voices and stories are among the most marginalized and silenced in US theater. We reached out, and I will just name that I am scared to speak myself in this moment and to have this recorded. So I will just name that, that is the level, and I'm a very privileged person in this space. I'm scared to say these things to all of you, and I just want to name that and honor that that is part of why we're here. We reached out to Amelia, Derek, and Julie on Wednesday and asked if they could make space for us here today. They said yes, and I reached out to some of these amazing artists. And then yesterday, a colleague who works closely with the Freedom Theater and other Palestinian artists sent us the call to action from the Palestinian Performing Arts Network and urged us to lift it up in this space. So that is how we got to this moment, rapidly, messily, imperfectly. And I'm so grateful and so honored that these incredible artists and leaders have offered us their time and presence today. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Julie Hendren, who will introduce begin to introduce our panelists with the amazing Iman Aoun.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. My name is Julie Hendren. I'm the Dr. Carey English Global Connectivity Manager for GTI. My pronouns are she, her. It's lovely to see you all. I'll just get right to it. It is my great privilege and honor to introduce Iman Aoun. I've had the privilege of hosting her twice in Albuquerque, New Mexico with 48 Minutes for Palestine and with our Theater Without Borders symposium. And I'm just so pleased that she's here today. Thank you, Iman. Iman is an award-winning actor, director, dramaturg, and internationally recognized theater trainer who specializes in the theater of the oppressed techniques. In 1991, Iman co-founded Ashtar for theater productions and training in Jerusalem, and has been instrumental in directing and devising productions for the company, including developing the world-renowned The Gaza Monologues, a documentary theater performance based on the personal stories of a group of children from Gaza, which has been performed in more than 50 cities in 36 countries, including Albuquerque, New Mexico. And if you'd like to read more, the work of her career is long and rich. So please visit ashtar-theater.org to read more about it. So welcome, Iman.
Thank you, Julie. Thank you, TCG, for this opportunity that is very valuable. Hello, everybody. My name is Iman Aoun. I'm she, her, and I'm sitting in Jerusalem at the moment. Behind me, I'm at home. This is my veranda. Behind me is one of the trees in my garden, and beside me here there is some files and books of Ashtar Theater, and I'm glad to be with you. And I'm in a blue marine top and with eyeglasses, and so that comes with the age, of course. And I'm really honored and glad to be with everybody here. Thank you, Laila. Thank you, Derek, and thank you, Amelia and Julie, and everybody who had given us this platform to talk. It is not an easy thing to start talking about what we want to share with you today, but let's say that this is one of the important moments whereby I could really speak up in the name of my colleagues, my theater movement in Palestine, the art movement in Palestine, not only the theater, but all the performing arts or the arts in general, to address the US and beyond theater and art community about what is happening and what is going on at the moment in Palestine. I think most of you, from the names that I have been reading here, are or should be aware of what is going on for 73 years in Palestine. We've been occupied and reoccupied, and we are by the day losing our status and our land and our lives to this colonial being that that is not giving us space to be. Lately, what you have seen for the last 11 years, for the last 11, it feels like 11 years, by the way, for the last 11 days, is only the top of the iceberg. The people are fed up of the continuous aggression, the continuous oppression, the continuous depression that we are that is imposed on us. What is being happening on the ground and unspoken of is way much more than what you have been following for the last 11 days. Allow me to start by saying that unfortunately, what usually happens is that we are not in the news up until a moment when an Israeli village, city, or person is attacked. So as if our lives do not matter. Only when the first rocket hits the first Israeli community, then the world is standing on its feet, trying to stop the terror that is coming from the Palestinians. And this should not continue. This has a deep-rooted history that leads us as intellects, as artists, as academics, as freedom fighters, as fighters in on the ground, to speak up, to react, to reflect, to revolt. And so we start to shout out loud, but the world is not always hearing us. The only thing that they hear is the sound of rockets. And that's why the rockets start to be essential in this, let's say, plea for our rights. So I want to read a statement that the cultural organizations have addressed all artists from around the world with. And we would like to share it with you because we believe that art and artists have a role in this. The role we can speak about even after we finish the reading of the call. But let's first start with the call. I don't know, Julie, are you going to share the call? So I would read it, or should I
do that? Do you want? Yeah, I think it would be great if you would read it, and I'll drop the whole call into the chat, which is going to be quite long, everybody, but then it will be there for you.
So sorry, Julie, you're not sharing it here, okay? So I read it from my screen.
Yes, sorry, I just need if you want to read it and I'll drop it. It just takes me 1 second. I apologize.
So, artists of the world. I mean, sorry. Just a second. Call on artists of the world to take action. We, Palestinian artists and art organizations, strongly condemn the massacres perpetrated by the Israeli army against innocent civilians in Gaza. Israel internationally targets inhabited private homes with its bombs, killing and injuring hundreds of children, women, and men. This targeting is a blatant war crime for which Israel should be held accountable. We also condemn the Israeli authorities' attempts throughout the holy month of Ramadan to ban worshippers from the most sacred of their shrines, the Aqsa Mosque in Jerusalem. Muslims were deliberately shot at and tear gassed while praying. The same attempts happened against Christians while struggling to reach the Holy Sepulchre to take part in the Mass of celebration of Easter. Israeli authorities are also continuing their bid to uproot 28 families from their homes in Sheikh Jarrah neighborhood of Jerusalem and instill fascist settlers in their place. During the last few weeks, Israeli authorities arrested thousands of young Palestinians from peaceful demonstrations. Israel should not be able to get away with its flagrant crimes against humanity. We call on artists and art organizations of the world to take immediate action to curb Israel. Demand that Israel stops the war on Gaza, ends its attempts to evict Sheikh Jarrah, halts its attacks on the Aqsa Mosque, gives free passage to all Palestinians to their holy sites, and free all prisoners. We call on you, artists of the world, to boycott Israel and ask your fans and followers to take action and reject Israeli products. Artists have the power to help end this atrocity by taking a stand for justice and human rights. We ask for your solidarity and support to end the Israeli occupation. Petition your governments to impose sanctions on Israel and expose their crimes against our people. You can also share these hashtags on your social media. Lobby your MPs and march for justice in Palestine. Hashtag Save Sheikh Jarrah, hashtag genocide in Gaza, hashtag Gaza under attack, hashtag Gaza _under_attack. So this was really sent out by a vast group of artists and art organizations from around historical Palestine, which means Palestinians inside Israel, in Palestinians in the West Bank, in Gaza and in Jerusalem, of course, and some of them in the diaspora. To say but a few, now today we have seen the ceasefire between the Israeli occupation and the Gaza frictions and freedom fighters, and but that's it could have been still on while we are talking now. But this is not the point. The point is not whether a ceasefire had been imposed. This is good. We're glad that no more civilians are dead. We're glad there's no more attacks on the people. But Gaza, whom my colleague here is with me, Ali Abu Yassin, that I will be introducing him in a second, and he will be talking to you all, is under siege for the last 15 years. It's the biggest prison, open prison in the world. 2 million plus are living in a prison. What the Gazans are facing when there is peace or where is no attack is way more difficult than the times when the people are seeing with their own eyes the attacks. Because as I said yesterday, and hello, my friend Joan, yesterday we were meeting with the Women's Theatre League and a group of international women. We were talking about how we die slowly every day when there is no attack, but we die fast when there is an attack. So do we want to keep the situation as is? Or can we, as the artist community around the world, able to do something to stop this bloodshed? And it's not a conflict. And I want to put many lines under that word. It's a colonial occupation. It is an occupation of a mighty country that owns more than probably 3,000 heads of nuclear weapon and the most advanced arm against almost unarmed people, with very few arms that are homemade, i.e. the rockets that are sent on Israel the last 11 days. There's no balance here. There are no two sides. There's no conflict here. And this is what we should adjust in the mind of the people. I don't want to take all the time to talk, but I could answer questions later. So I want to introduce my colleague, my friend, and a wonderful actor, director from Gaza, a colleague of Ashtar Theatre, Ali Abu Yassin, who is a Palestinian actor and director that started his work in 1990 as an actor. Then he started directing in 94, and he also plays drama for the TV and films. In 2004, he was an award-winning actor in the Tunisian festival for his performance Abu Arab. And Ali, he was the trainer and the director of the group of the Gaza monologues in Gaza. So if it wasn't for Ali, the Gaza monologues wouldn't have been, because we were working remotely. Even from that time, 10 years ago, we were working together, me over Skype with Ali and over the phone, and Ali on the ground with the group. So I would like to introduce Ali Abu Yassin to you. Ali, اتفضل.
شكرا كثير يا إيمان على هالتقديم، وأنا سعيد جدا بوجودي بينكم، وبحب أشكر إميليا على هذه الدعوة وهذا الحضور الإنساني من أجل فلسطين، والحضور الفني. أنا دائما بحكي إنه أنا إلي عيلة كبيرة. نعم؟
أنا رح أترجم لك، فإذا بتعطيني جمل مش طويلة. So Ali, Ali said, thank you for this gathering. Thank you, Emilia, for this invitation. Of course, thank you, Layla, as well, and all the others. And he is very happy and glad to be with us today. Ali, تفضل.
أنا يعني فهمت من كلامك إن أنت حكيت كثير على موضوع الحصار 15 سنة على غزة، وما بعرفش إذا حكيت على الموضوع الاقتصادي كمان، إنه في الحرب الأخيرة إذا غزة فيها نسبة بطالة 60% وبتعتمد في الاقتصاد على الطبقة المتوسطة اللي هي الشركات والمصانع. فخلال الأيام الماضية الاحتلال دمر هاي المقدرات، المصانع والشركات اللي الطبقة المتوسطة بتعتاش عليها. وهذا طبعا عدم البلد تماما. وبحاول يعني هم طول الوقت بحاولوا انهم يقتلوا اي باب امل بيجينا، حتى الكهرباء مقطوعه، المي مالحه، مسكر علينا زي ما حكيتي بسجن كبير من 15 سنه. فاذا بدنا نحكي على الفن ترجمه هذا وبعدين بكمل.
Yeah. First of all, he said that he feels that he is among his big artistic family, and then he said that I did, me personally, I spoke a little bit about the imprisonment of Gaza for the last 15 years and the siege imposed on Gaza for the last 15 years. But he said, particularly, he wanted to raise the issue about how Israel had attacked middle class business this time in Gaza in the last attack. And that is systematic because they wanted to cut the possibility of any economic growth or life in the strip. There is no electricity, the water is salty, and the means of existence, of continuation for the people from their work, from their small businesses had been cut off nowadays with this attack.
يعني إذا بدنا نحكي على الفن زي ما أنتم عارفين، الفن بحاجة دائما لاستقرار وله هدوء. ولكن في حالة غزة يعني حالة الحروب المتتالية، احنا بنعيش حالة حروب تقريبا من أكثر من حد ما من ال 48 إلى الآن، ولكن في آخر 17 سنة حروب متتالية. وهذا المناخ مش مناخ صحي للفن ولا للحياة ولا للبشر. فما بالك كمان إذا هم الاحتلال يعني بيقصف بالطيارات المسارح، قصف المسرح اللي كنا بنشتغل فيه واللي كان فيه مقر عشتار، قصف المكتبة الوطنية، قصف مسرح الهلال. ما بيخلي إلنا مكان للحلم، لنصنع فيه موسيقى، لنصنع فيه مسرحنا، إلا بيقصفوا. فإحنا يعني بنشوف إنه في منهجة في هذا القصف ضد الفن والفنانين والمبدعين الفلسطينيين.
Yeah. So Ali was mentioning that any art to strive and to develop, it needs somehow a safe haven, a safe environment in order to grow, to develop. But we've been living in Gaza, a war after another. Wars had been there since 48, but the last 10 or 17 years, wars on Gaza were continual and systematic and built with a vision of how to really dismantle the society. And there was a specifically Israel was targeting culture in Gaza as well, because they have bombarded the theater Al-Mishal, where Ashtar theater was working for 10 years. They bombarded the National Library in Gaza. They bombarded the Al-Hilal or the Red Crescent Theater, they have bombarded Basma organization lately. That's from me, but lately that organization was also destroyed. So they do target the culture as much as they target the businesses. And this environment cannot really create a good possibility for the arts to develop, to strive, to be as it should be.
يعني الفنانين جانب من الشغل الفن في فلسطين صعب. يعني الأشياء اللي كانت دائما تخفف علينا هذا العمل الصعب إنه كنا بنسافر نمثل فلسطين في المهرجانات العربية والدولية ونلتقي مع فنانين آخرين من كل العالم، لأنه هذول زي ما بحكي أنا دائما هم أسرتي وهم عيلتي اللي أنا اخترتها. ولكن في ظل الحصار إحنا انعزلنا عن عيلتنا وانحرمنا أن نتواصل مع الفنانين في العالم، وهذا أثر على زيادة الخبرات عندنا. وأنا بعرف إنه العالم يعني لما كنا بنعرض زمان كان العالم كله ينتظر يسمع قصصنا ومعاناتنا اللي هي أغرب من الخيال.
Before the siege, we used to be as artists and theater people. We used to travel a lot and perform in the Arab world, in the world around, and this used to give us the breath, the lungs to really breathe, because you only grow amongst your artistic family, the big artistic family that Ali keep talking about. But the fact that we have been under siege for so long, not able to leave the strip, the Gaza Strip, for so many years, had also impacted our aesthetics and our artistic work, because we have shut down somehow ourselves from that cycle of growth.
يعني بدي أوضح شغلة أنا لابد من توضيحها، يمكن أخذت من وقت كتير بس تحملوني.
I'd like to verify one thing. I'm sorry if I took too much from your time, but I would like to tell you one more thing.
يعني كل المشاكل اللي صارت في غزة والحصار وتعثر عملية السلام صارت بعد ما حماس فازت في المجلس التشريعي وصارت يعني بتتحكم في غزة وتم فرض الحصار علينا.
The problems of Gaza started when Hamas was democratically elected, but pushed back by Israel and by the international governments into Gaza, and so the siege was imposed on us, and so our life had become under the regime of Hamas.
اللي بقى يعني اللي أنا متأكد منه إنه الشرائع الدولية ومنظمة العدل الدولية، يعني كل القوانين اللي في الدنيا أعطوا الحق لأي شعب محتل بإنه يدافع عن نفسه بأي طرق بشوفها مناسبة من أجل نيل حريته.
All the international laws had granted the rights for occupied people and to defend itself, to revolt, to protect itself the way they see it right.
ومع ذلك الشعب الفلسطيني عدده 12 مليون نسمة. حماس بتجيش في نسبة بسيطة جدا.
The Palestinians are 12 million people. Hamas is only one portion, and it's a small portion of the Palestinian people.
وإحنا كل الشعب الفلسطيني بيتعاقب بسبب حماس. بساعات بنحس هيك يعني.
And all the Palestinians are how do we say كيف بنتعاقب we pay the price. We pay the price.
بيتعذب.
Yeah, we pay the price. We because they want to scold Hamas, or they want to attack Hamas. But we pay the price because of that.
حركة حماس تأسست في ال 87، أعلن عنها في ال 87. القضية الفلسطينية من ال 48 وإحنا بنعاني، يعني إحنا بنعاني قبل حركة حماس بحوالي 35 سنة أو 40 سنة.
Hamas was created in 87, but the Palestinians are suffering since 48, which means 30 years before Hamas was created. So if yeah.
احنا مش مطلوب منا لا نكون ابطال ولا نكون ضحايا. احنا اللي حابينه نكون بشر، اعيش زيي وزيك وزيي وزيك وزي ايميليا، زي كل الناس اللي في الدنيا، يكون لي جواز سفر واطلع وانزل واسافر بحريه واتواصل مع كل البشر كانسان، مش كشخص منبوذ طول الوقت قاعد مش قادر يحلم لبكره. ومش يعني انا اليوم محظوظ اني طلعت عايش من غزه، لانه الى الان بطول الجثث من تحت الانقاض. الى الان اليوم طالوا 7 جثث من تحت الانقاض. تفضل يعني.
Well, as Palestinians, we don't want to be heroes. We neither want to be victims. We want to be normal people like you, like Emilia, like the rest. All we dream for is to be respected as human beings, to have a passport, to be able to travel, to move, to exist, and not to be all the time pointed at or feeling threatened or under fear. I'm so happy that I have survived these 11 days. Even until this moment, they are excavating and taking out either the dead bodies or the martyrs, or the survivors under the rubbles. So 7 people were taken off the rubbles today, and they were, of course, martyred.
أنا بشوف إنه ضروري يكون في حل عادل وشامل لهذه القضية الفلسطينية حتى نساعد حالنا ونساعد إسرائيل، لأنه في 1 مليون فلسطيني بيعيشوا داخل إسرائيل و7 مليون جيران لإسرائيل. يعني لا يمكن تستمر الحياة بهذا العنف وبهذا الصراع. لا إحنا بدنا ننفيهم ولا هم ينفونا. إحنا لازم نعيش بسلام بحقوق اللي أقرها الشرعية الدولية ومجلس الأمن وهيئة الأمم، دولة فلسطينية على حدود 67 وعاصمتها القدس. لأنه إحنا صعب ننتفى، لأنه إحنا أصحاب لغة وحضارة وتاريخ ومتجذرين على هذه الأرض.
So we want to be we want to be helped, and we want to help Israel as well, because there is 7 million living next to each other. I mean, there's 1 million Palestinians living inside Israel, and then there's 7 million Palestinians besides that, and we don't want to be kicked out of our place. We don't want to be exterminated. We don't want to be pushed out of our country. We want to live in peace in a Palestinian state next to an Israeli state, but a sovereign state for Palestine, because that's the only way. Two-state solution is the way that that should be, because we want to live in peace. Sorry, I just need to know what Layla.
Thank you so much.
اللي بدي أطلب طلب أخير بس.
بليز سوري بس بدنا نسمعك منك بس تفضل.
يعني أنا بحب إنه يكون في إشي مشترك بيننا وبينكم، الفنانين يوصلوا صوتنا لكل العالم، تضامن مع قضيتنا، وإذا بده يكون عمل فني أو عمل إبداعي بيننا يكون عمل مش عشان بدنا ننشر، عمل يتضامن مع قضيتنا ووضح للعالم المعاناة اليومية اللي إحنا بنعيشها في غزة وبفلسطين. شكرا.
Shukran, Ali. So Ali said final word is if you want to show solidarity, artistic solidarity with us, we'd like to extend an invitation for you to produce a play, co-produce between us a play, not to make us known around the world, but to make our story heard around the world. And to highlight the reality that we are living through on a daily basis. Thank you.
شكرا جزيلا.
شكرا يا إمان.
شكرا جزيلا يا علي، يعطيك ألف عافية، وشكرا كتير لوقتك ولكلماتك فظيعين ومهمين، ويا ريت كان عنا وقت أكتر لكلكم، فشكرا كتير. Thank you so much Ali for your words, and Iman for your translation also, your real-time translation. شكرا، يعطيك ألف عافية. I want to also introduce Nabeel Raee. He's a teacher, playwright, director, and former artistic director of the Freedom Theater of Jenin. He's born and raised in Arub refugee camp in Palestine. He joined Theater Day Productions in the 1990s, a theater company in Hebron working and training actors. After further training in Tunisia and Europe, Nabeel joined the Freedom Theater in 2007, becoming the artistic director in 2011. He directed many of the Freedom Theater's most noted productions, including Suicide Note from Palestine and The Siege. His work has toured across Europe, the UK, and North America. And I think it's a wonderful transition from Ali's words and call to us to hear now from Nabeel. Tfaddal.
I was muted. Well, thank you so much for this opportunity. Let me say just some words to Ali بالعربي. علي يا حبيبنا، كل الحب والاحترام إلكم في غزة الحبيبة اللي هي قطعة من فلسطين ولا يمكن أن تكون غير ذلك. وإذا كنا هون بالضفة فقلوبنا عايشة في غزة. هاي حقيقة مطلقة، يعني أنا بحصل لي الشرف إني أتعرف عليك. Thank you, Iman, for your words. I think my colleagues have said many things. Let me be practical and get to the point. I want to start by saying I was introduced that Nabeel was born in a refugee camp. For the people who doesn't know what is a refugee camp, I think it's 1 square kilometer. 1 square kilometer where 14,000 people are living. Can you imagine that? I don't think you can until you live this situation. It means people are above each other, literally, houses, everything, small streets, a place that I did not choose to be born there. I had a village, I still have a village called Iraq al-Manshi. And this is the place where I want to grow and be and build the future of myself and the future of my children. And it's not a dream, because every idea and every victory starts with a dream. It would become truly, it will become a truth. So this camp was rented by the United Nations from villages around nearby, for 99 years. And my first question to the whole world, how did the United Nations know that the occupation will last for 99 years? You answer me. This is one thing about the camp, and I have so many things to tell you about the camps, but I'll keep it for later. Now, art was made or found itself to do a change. But if art will be biased, then it's a tool of destruction as well as it is a tool of construction and building nations and voices for other people. This is where the role of artists come, to be neutral and to address the truth and to stand with basics rights of human beings. If the art does not serve the basic rights of human beings, then it's becoming very, very dangerous, and it will be a deceiving tool for audiences and people in general. I want to share with you something that many people repeatedly said many, many years, that what is happening in Palestine is a conflict. Again, this is not a conflict. This is an ethnic cleansing project. It's a fight to exist. We as Palestinians, we are fighting to exist. When this is happening, I think, and you all agree with me, that you have to stand up and fight with all the way possible to exist. And this is what the Palestinians have been doing the last 73 years. I always wonder why governments, especially because I always believe in people, not governments, address the problem or what is happening from their own point of view. I want to take an example. As an American, and most of you knows, what happens in America, there was also another ethnic cleansing for the indigenous people in America. How come you don't stand with an ethnic cleansing project in Palestine? It's an open question. I'm sorry for the shocking fact that I'm introducing to you, but this is what is happening. And in order for you sometimes to address a subject, you have to be direct and into the point. My aim or my goal is not to hurt you, but just to wake you up. Imagine this is exactly what is happening in Palestine. The fight in America for the indigenous people is still there. They're fighting daily. Black Lives Matter, the indigenous people in America, they're fighting for their rights until today. And this is what is happening in Palestine. The other thing I want to share with you, and I don't think many of the people around the world knows. Gaza is being isolated from Palestine, is being taken from us. Imagine Washington is isolated and people from all over the states of America and New York cannot enter, go in or out of Washington. The only way you can communicate is your phone. It's a big present. Last time I was in Gaza, I was 10 years old. I have a family there. I didn't see them. I don't know them. Their pictures, only the picture of 10 years, when I was 10 years old, sticking to my mind. Now, last point, I don't want to take a lot of time. I don't think our enemy, and I'm not gonna call them anything else, they are an enemy for me. They don't want to consider all the steps that we have been taking. We talked about peace process. They didn't consider it at all. Since 1993, we said, okay, they have their rights, we have our rights. Nothing changed. They don't want us to exist. I think I'm willing to share with a decent human beings to exist with me. I'm not into flags, countries, borders, passports. I'm talking as a human being. They don't want us to exist. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I don't want to forget about my right of self-determination. I have a village in there. I did not choose to be born in the camp. I want to go back to my village. And this is historical Palestine. It's big enough. It can be big enough to hold everyone, despite the fact of his religion, his race, his color. But there is conditions to be, and there is a consideration needs to be taken. These people have to respect our right of existence. Otherwise, why we fight? We're not fighting for an apple. We are fighting to exist. I think today, Palestinians are not victims. They are standing on their feet, fighting with an honor. We are not waiting for governments to change our situation. If the victory doesn't come within inside the Palestinians themselves, we will never achieve what we are fighting for. But if people want to join us in this just cause, welcome. Come and join us and fight with us. Anyway, last thing I want to say. You don't have to believe me when I say such a thing. I might be lying. I'm an actor. I'm a good actor. I can lie. I can tell you something and you might believe me. You don't have to believe me. Go and search and do your homework. If you find Palestine is a just cause, stand with us. If not, find different resources. I would like to thank you very much for this chance. And excuse me for my anger because I'm a human being. I can be angry sometimes. I don't have to be nice all the time. But I'm sorry, this is a feeling of somebody who just saw lots of pain the last 73 years, not 11 days. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you, Ilak, Ya Nabeel. Shukran jazilan for your words. And please do not apologize for being angry and for having the feelings that you have. Bil'aks, thank you for being here and for everything that you do as an artist and for sharing that with us so powerfully. I want to very briefly, because I am aware of time, introduce Betty Shamia, our Palestinian American playwright. Betty's off-Broadway productions include The Black Eyed at New York Theater Workshop and Roar at the New Group. She's a Mellon playwright in residence at the Classical Theater of Harlem and a visiting artist at Stanford University, and one of our most renowned and respected playwrights in the US theater. Betty, تفضلي.
Thank you, Layla. And شكرا كتير للثلاثة. شرفنا. And I had the pleasure of meeting Iman, but inshallah I will soon meet you too, because I was so moved and touched by what you said. I will be brief, and my role here is really to localize this in the minds of people who are listening, who are not aware of maybe not what's happening, but why it matters to us. You know, why this is different from Rwanda and ethnic cleansing in different places. The difference is that our tax dollars are funding the occupation. And the difference is that, you know, our government is shielding war crimes, even though you have human rights groups in Israel advocating for, you know, stronger language and the use of terms like apartheid and ethnic cleansing and war crimes. So that is why it matters. It does not make us safer as Americans to allow a foreign policy that, you know, privileges one side or the other, or finances, you know, the weapons that kill an indigenous population. So I think that it's my only role here is to kind of localize why it matters to us, you know, and the question of when you hear things like is this conflict so important? It's because we're funding one side. And the other thing I want to say is in 2002, which I'm dating myself, but Iman, I met her and I went to Gaza for the second time in my life with some of the most renowned American playwrights, including Tony Kushner. And not everybody in our group wanted to go to Gaza. They were afraid. And the person who was most probably vulnerable, he's a very visible Jewish man, insisted that we go and witness. And I had a lot of conversations with Tony, and I respect him so much, but we have different opinions. And what I will always respect is that he went in and saw for himself and witnessed. And our point of our journey was to witness what our counterparts, the artists in Palestine, were living under. And I just encourage all of you Americans, my colleagues, my friends, to really understand that it's your job as an artist to imagine worlds. And I know in my heart, and maybe not in my lifetime, that the Middle East is going to look like the EU. We're all going to be able to live together. We're going to maybe have the same currency. We might have some jackasses, excuse my language, like the British who want to, you know, their own thing. But we are going to live in a world where that is possible, and it's racist to think otherwise. Europe tore itself apart in 2 world wars in the last century. And to think that this is not solvable is myopic and silly. So I just hope that all of you, like Tony Kushner, go witness, hear, and since we're not moving around, you do it in the way that you can. You learn, you read, you grow. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Betty, for being here and for your words. And I want to also just name and recognize that for anyone here or who's watching this that feels a discomfort and has feelings about what we're hearing, to lean into those, as we have discomfort in many other contexts, as Amelia framed at the top, and to invite you to ask yourselves where those feelings come from and what you can do to respond to what you have heard. I know we have only a few more minutes, so I just want to name that obviously we need more time, we need space to talk, we need space for more conversations with these artists, with each other as a community, in multiple ways. And so I know that the Middle Eastern North African Theater Makers Alliance wants to support convening those. I know the Global Theater Initiative wants to do what we can. We've been talking about those things, but I'm going to, with that, just thank the artists so much for being here with us, for your time, your words, your sharing some of your experiences and your words with us and these calls. I want to now make sure that we turn this over to Tracy. I don't know if you wanted to say a couple of words, or if I should just, if you've dropped those in the chat, to make sure just to lift up in the chat, Tracy Francis, another wonderful member of our steering committee, whose connection is a little iffy right now, has dropped information to sign up for future dialogues and contact. We certainly would like to know if you would like to be part of those. Julie, I know there are resources that North Theater and Noel Husseini and others have been sharing about what you can do. I believe we're trying to drop those in the chat as well, some links to those documents. So making sure you have some resources for further discussion, education, action, and engagement. And with that, I just want to turn it over to Amelia or Julie or Derek. Thank you so much.
A special shukran to all of our guests from outside of the US and for bringing your full humanity, your deep thoughtfulness, and your words, and painting a picture for us about what life is like for you. Here in the US, we do live in a very privileged place. And it is maybe a question that I know the folks from MENATMA and Layla and I had been talking about and had come up in the global roundtable. The question, the charge to all of you, really in Betty's words, is, you know, your job as artists, as theater people, is to imagine worlds. So if we can imagine a world where peace is possible, if we can imagine a world where there are no mobility issues and people can move from place to place to see family without fear, where we can have breath as our commonality, as our common language, that breath together. So maybe I invite us just for even 10 seconds, because I know I am deeply moved by all that I've heard, and it'll take me a while, I think, to process all of this. I would just, my breath, I always go to checking in with my breath, and my breath is very shallow right now. My breath is right at the top of my thoracic area and heart, and I want to drop it down into my belly a little deeper so I can ground myself. So I invite you to just be conscious of where your breath is right now. Try to lower it. And as you're doing that, just really, really try to put your imagination into your heart space. And what does it mean to really open your heart to the words that you have heard in this past amount of time? And then hopefully you will be moved to take action, right? As Betty said, to dream worlds. So again, shukran, friends, and thank you to all the friends at the TCG conference, the attendees and folks who may not be at the regular conference but came to join us for this. There will be more. In June, the first week of June, we are going to be having a series of events that are going to be celebrating people of color, BIPOC folks, people of the global majority, whatever term you want to use, with affinity spaces, celebration and events. So more on that will come. So do stay in touch with us, and we will make every effort to stay in touch with you all. Going to wind us down, and thank you so much for joining us here.